Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to the reading, teachings of Lord Chaitanya by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're continuing chapter number 12, the devotee. Srila Rupa Goswami has recommended that one live in the association of those who are of the same mentality. Therefore, it is necessary to form some association for Krishna consciousness and live together for the cultivation of knowledge of Krishna and devotional service. Jai. This is one of the most essential items that I found in my personal life, and I'm sure devotees who've been in devotee association for years can also second that, because in Sanskrit it's called svajati, meaning having association of like-minded, those who are of the same mentality. And you can really hamper and you can really create a lot of obstacles if you try to fit in to association of those who are really just not of the same mentality in devotional service. And you can feel like you're some ugly duckling or there's some misfit, and then think that I don't fit in the entire ISKCON if you just didn't find the proper association for yourself. But when you really associate with those who are svajatis, it's like it's something so natural, it's something like a flowing of the fountain. It's just like you can't have enough of association with each other, and it's very, very precious. And I really highly recommend and highly hope that this is really a very important instruction of Srila Rupa Goswami. Please, if you have any problems in your spiritual life, just try to see, like, first of all, are you associating with those who are of the same mentality, svajatis? Because if you are, maybe 99% of all of your problems would be gone. Seriously. Yes, so the most important item for living in that association is the mutual understanding of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Mutual understanding. When faith and devotion are developed, they become transformed into the worship of the deity, chanting of the holy name, and living in a holy place like Mathura and Vrindavan. The last 5 items mentioned after the first 39 are very important and essential. If one can simply discharge these 5 items, he can be elevated to the highest perfectional stage, even if he does not execute them perfectly. One may be able to perform one item or many items, according to one's capacity. But it is the principal factor of complete attachment to devotional service that makes one advance on the path. Factor of complete attachment. Some devotees in history, like Maharaja Ambarisha, attained perfection in devotional service by executing all the items of devotional service, while many others attained perfection by discharging the duties of only one item. Some of them are Maharaja Parikshit, who was liberated and fully perfected simply by hearing; Shukadeva Goswami, who became liberated and attained perfection in devotional service simply by chanting; Prahlada Maharaj, who attained perfection by remembering; Lakshmi, who attained perfection simply by serving the lotus feet of the Lord; King Prithu, who attained perfection simply by worshipping; Akrura, who attained perfection simply by praying. Hanuman, who attained perfection simply by becoming the servant of Lord Ram. Arjuna, who attained perfection simply by being a friend of Krishna's. And Bali Maharaj, who attained perfection simply by offering whatever he had in his possession. As mentioned above, Maharaja Ambarisha performed all the items of devotional service. He first of all engaged his mind by fixing it on the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa. He engaged his words, his power of speaking, in describing the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He engaged his hands in washing the temple of the deity, his ears in hearing the words of Kṛṣṇa, and his eyes in beholding the deity. He engaged his sense of touch by rendering service to the devotees, and he engaged his sense of smell by relishing the fragrance of the flowers offered to Kṛṣṇa. He engaged his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa, his legs in going to the temple of Kṛṣṇa, and his head in offering obeisances to the deity of Kṛṣṇa. Because all his desires and ambitions were thus engaged in devotional service of the Lord, Maharaja Ambarisha is considered the leader in discharging devotional service in all kinds of ways. Whoever engages in devotional service of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness becomes freed of all debts to the sages, demigods, and forefathers, to whom everyone is generally indebted. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.41. Devarshe bhutapta nrinam pitrinam nakin karo nayam rini charajan sarvatmanayah sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritya kartam. Quote, whoever fully engages himself in the service of the Lord, O King, giving up all other duties, is no longer indebted to the demigods, the sages, other living entities, his relatives, the forefathers, or any man. Unquote. Every man, just after his birth, is at once indebted to all the above-mentioned personalities, and one is expected to discharge many kinds of ritualistic functions because of his indebtedness. But a person who is fully surrendered unto Kṛṣṇa has no obligation. He becomes free from all debts. It should be carefully noted, however, that when a person gives up all other duties and simply takes to the transcendental service of Kṛṣṇa, he has no material desire and is not apt to perform sinful activities. If, however, he performs sinful activities not willfully, but by chance, Kṛṣṇa gives him all protection. It is not necessary for him to purify himself by any other method. And this is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42. Quote, a devotee who is fully engaged in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord is protected by the Supreme Person. But in case such a devotee unintentionally commits some sinful activity or is obliged to act sinfully under certain circumstances, God, situated within his heart, gives him all protection. Unquote. The processes of speculative knowledge and renunciation are not chief items for elevation in devotional service. One does not have to take to the principles of non-violence and sense control, although there are rules and regulations for acquiring these qualities in the other processes. Without even practicing these processes, a devotee develops all good qualities simply by discharging devotional service to the Lord. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.20.31, the Lord Himself says that there is no necessity of cultivating speculative. There is no necessity of cultivating speculative knowledge and renunciation if one is actually engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Jai. Out of sheer misunderstanding, some transcendentalists think that knowledge and renunciation are necessary for rising to the platform of devotional service. This is not so. The cultivation of knowledge and the renunciation of fruitive activities may be necessary for understanding one's spiritual existence in relation to the material conception of life. But they are not part and parcel of devotional service. The results of knowledge and fruitive activity are liberation and material sense gratification, respectively. Therefore, they cannot be part and parcel of devotional service. So the results of knowledge and fruitive activity is liberation, material sense gratification. They cannot be part and parcel of devotional service. Rather, they have no intrinsic value in the discharge of devotional service. One who is freed from bondage to the results of knowledge and fruitive activities can be situated in devotional service. Such a devotee of Kṛṣṇa is by nature non-violent, and since his mind and senses are controlled, he does not have to make a special effort to acquire the good qualities which result from cultivating knowledge and performing fruitive activities. When Uddhava was questioning Kṛṣṇa about the rules and regulations according to Vedic injunctions, he asked, "Why is it that the Vedic hymns encourage one in material enjoyment while at the same time the Vedic instructions also free one from all illusion and encourage one toward liberation?" The Vedic rules are said to be ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but apparently there are contradictions, and Uddhava was anxious to know how one could resolve these contradictions. In reply, Lord Krishna cited the verse mentioned above, Srimad Bhagavatam 11.20.31, informing him of the super-excellence of devotional service. Quote, "For one who is already engaged in devotional service to me, and whose mind is fixed on me, it is neither practical nor necessary to cultivate knowledge and renunciation." Unquote. Thus, the Lord's conclusion is that devotional service is independent of any other processes. The cultivation of knowledge, renunciation, or meditation may be a little helpful in the beginning, but they cannot be considered necessary for discharging devotional service. In other words, devotional service can be discharged independently of the cultivation of knowledge and renunciation. In this regard, there is also a verse from the Skanda Purana, in which Narada Muni tells a hunter tribesman, quote, "O hunter, the qualifications you have just now acquired, such as non-violence and others, are not astonishing, because one who is engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Lord cannot be a source of trouble for anyone under any circumstances." Unquote. Jai. That's a nice, how you call it, barometer for us also to measure our level of devotional service. Because one who is engaged in devotional service, he cannot be the source of trouble for anyone under any circumstance. Jai. Haribol. So, we shall continue tomorrow with chapter number 13, Devotional Service in Attachment. And we shall stop here for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. The link to this book is in the description. Please check out our website, shravanamdiaries.com. You will find links to all the books, the list of the episodes, biography of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and something else also, additional. So thank you so much. Again, Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.